All right, so let's fast forward in this story because the real madness isn't just that Yajooj and Majooj exist. It's what happens when they finally break out. The Islamic narrations are wild. They say these forces will swarm the earth like waves. You know how ants cover a piece of food? Like you drop a crumb and in 2 minutes it's completely black with ants. That's the imagery, but it's not ants, it's people. Billions of them, moving like a flood, consuming everything in their path. The unstoppable flood, the hadiths describe them drinking entire rivers dry. Imagine that. You've got an army so vast that when they march through a region, there's literally no water left. They scoop it all up and then they go, oh yeah, there used to be water here. Like they've consumed it to the point where nature itself gets erased. Now, that's insane if you picture it literally, but even as a metaphor, it's terrifying. That's exactly what we're doing today. Look at industrial civilization. We're drinking aquifers dry. We're clearing out rainforests, draining lakes, overfishing oceans. And people in future generations will probably say the same thing. Wait, there used to be rivers here. That's why these stories resonate. It's not just about some crazy apocalyptic tribe. It's about what happens when human greed or chaos is let loose with no limits. Running to the mountains. The narrations also say that when Yajooj and Majooj swarm, people will have no chance of fighting them. No army, no weapons, no strategy works. So what do people do? They run. They hide in mountains, caves, remote areas just to survive. That image is heavy because it tells you this. Once chaos breaks loose at that scale, you can't control it. You can't fight it. You can only get out of the way. And that resonates with a lot of modern fears. Like if nuclear war ever pops off, there's no winning. You're not going to Rambo your way through mushroom clouds. If AI really goes rogue, if climate systems collapse, there's no human strategy that fixes it on the spot. You just survive if you can. Divine intervention, the tiny creature. And then comes the craziest twist. After this insane, unstoppable swarm covers the earth, destroying everything, the narrations say God sends a tiny creature, like worms, parasites, some microscopic thing that infects Yajooj and Majooj and kills them all at once. That's poetic, man. The greatest army in human history, the most terrifying force ever unleashed, doesn't get stopped by nukes, doesn't get stopped by superheroes, doesn't get stopped by technology. It gets taken down by something so small you can't even see it. And doesn't that sound familiar? A virus, a plague, something microscopic that brings giants to their knees. Like if COVID taught us anything, it's that we're fragile. Planes, tanks, armies, economies, all brought to a halt by something we couldn't see with the naked eye. That's Yajooj and Majooj energy right there. The bigger message. So what's the lesson here? Whether you see Yajooj and Majooj as literal beings sealed behind a wall, or you see them as a metaphor for human chaos, the story is saying something crystal clear. Chaos is always pushing. Human effort can only hold it back for so long. When it's unleashed, you won't control it. In the end, survival depends on something beyond human power, and that's where humility comes in. Because humans today, we walk around like gods. We've got AI, rockets, biotech, nuke, but deep down, we know one tiny crack in the system, and it all falls apart. Parallels to today's world. Let's line this up with our reality right now. Overpopulation and resource scarcity. Billions of people competing for limited land, water, food. That's a Yajooj and Majooj scenario. Climate change, rising seas, collapsing ecosystems, cities becoming unlivable. That's chaos breaking through the wall. Technology, AI or biotech, unleashed with no ethics. Machines smarter than us. Viruses engineered in labs. That's literally the wall cracking open. War and division, nations tearing each other apart, destabilizing entire regions. Another form of chaos we can't always contain. You start to see why people for centuries took these stories seriously. It's not just end-of-the-world fairy tales, it's human psychology. It's a warning, Joe Rogan. Tangent. Are we the Yajooj and Majooj? Here's a crazy thought. What if Yajooj and Majooj aren't some external tribe? What if they're us? Think about it. Humans spread across the planet like a swarm. We consume everything. We drink rivers dry, chop forests, wipe out species, leave wastelands behind us. We're the only species that multiplies and consumes to the point where the earth itself struggles to keep up. So maybe the prophecy isn't saying watch out for these tribes. Maybe it's saying watch out for yourself, because when you unleash your greed, your chaos, your unrestrained desire, you become Yajooj and Majooj. And if that's the case, the end isn't some distant thing. We're already in it. Humility before the storm. Now here's the part where it gets deep. These stories don't end with humans save the day. They end with divine intervention. That's the humbling message. Some problems are too big for us. And I think people today need that reminder. Because whether you're religious or not, you can't deny that there are forces bigger than us. Nature, the cosmos, the stuff we don't even understand yet. If Yajooj and Majooj are anything, they're a reminder that human control is an illusion. We're not masters, we're passengers. Psychedelic insight. You know me, man, I can't help but bring in the psychedelic angle here. Because when people do ayahuasca, or DMT, or psilocybin, they often come back saying the same thing. I realized I'm not in control. I realized there are forces bigger than me, and I have to let go. That's the same lesson as Yajooj and Majooj. You can build your walls, your defenses, your systems, but when the storm comes, the only thing left is humility. Closing thought for part 2. So whether you see Yajooj and Majooj as literal beings, as humanity itself, or as the forces of chaos in the universe, the message is heavy. Chaos is real. It's always clawing at the walls. One day the walls will break. And when it happens, the only way through is recognizing that you're not in control. That's a lesson as old as time. And honestly, if you look around at the world today, it feels like we're getting closer and closer to that moment. Man, let me tell you something. There are stories out there, old stories that are so crazy, so wild, that when you first hear them, you're like, come on, that can't be real. But then the more you think about them, the more you start seeing connections to the world we're living in right now. And that's the thing that blows my mind, how ancient traditions somehow map onto the problems we're facing in modern times. So today, I want to talk about one of the most insane, most mysterious legends out there from the Islamic tradition, Yajooj and Majooj, or as you might know them from the Bible, Gog and Magog. Now, if you've never heard of these guys, buckle up, because it's a story about chaos, destruction, and the end of the world. But here's the kicker. It's also a story about us, about human nature, about the way chaos is always bubbling underneath civilization, just waiting to break loose. The first encounter, Dhul-Qarnayn, and the wall. So let's rewind way back, like ancient times. The Quran talks about this ruler named Dhul-Qarnayn. Some people say he was Alexander the Great, some say Cyrus the Great. Others think he was just some righteous king with mad power and wisdom. The point is, this guy was traveling the world, conquering, building, organizing society. At one point in his journey, he gets to this land where people are like, listen, man, we've got a problem. These creatures, these tribes called Yajooj and Majooj, they're destroying everything. They raid, they kill, they devour. We can't stop them. And Dhul-Qarnayn, instead of just slaughtering everybody or saying, not my problem, decides to build a barrier. But not just any barrier, this thing is legendary. The Quran says he piled up massive sheets of iron between two mountains, then poured molten copper over it until it solidified into this impenetrable wall. Like, imagine that. In a time where people are barely working with basic tools, this dude creates a super wall of iron and copper. This was like the ancient equivalent of a nuclear bomb, an insane feat of engineering. And the people are like, thank you, you saved us. And Dhul-Qarnayn basically says, don't thank me, this isn't me, this isn't me, this is from God. And one day when God decides that wall's coming down, and when it does, good luck. The daily digging. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Islamic tradition says that every single day, Yajooj and Majooj dig at that wall. They claw, they scratch, they chip away, trying to break free. And by the end of the day, they almost get through. But then night falls, and by some divine miracle, the wall is restored. The next day they start again, but one day, it's almost like destiny, they're finally allowed to break it. And that's when all hell breaks loose. That's when the world sees what these forces are really about. Now think about that imagery for a second. Forces of chaos, clawing every day at the walls of civilization, never stopping, always trying to break through. Doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't that sound like the way humanity is always battling something? Disease, war, greed, corruption, technology running wild. It's like the metaphor of life itself, order versus chaos. And chaos never sleeps. It's always digging. Who are Yajooj and Majooj really? So the million-dollar question, who or what are Yajooj and Majooj? Some people take it literally. They're these ancient tribes sealed away somewhere on Earth, waiting until the end of times to burst out. And there are tons of theories. Are they in Siberia, in the Caucasus Mount, behind some undiscovered valley? Others say it's not literal, it's symbolic. Yajooj and Majooj aren't people but forces. Uncontrollable human greed, rampant destruction, overpopulation, like maybe they represent us humanity when it loses control. Think about it, billions of people consuming resources, destroying forests, burning fuel, poisoning oceans. If you look at it that way, Yajooj and Majooj aren't locked behind a wall somewhere. They're already here. They're us when we act without restraint. And that's what makes the story timeless. Whether you believe in them as actual beings or a metaphor, the message is the same. Once chaos is unleashed, you can't stop it with just human effort. It takes something bigger, parallels across cultures. Now here's what blows my mind. This isn't just an Islamic story. The Bible has Gog and Magog. The book of Revelation talks about them rising up at the end of the world, surrounding the holy people, and then getting wiped out by God. In Norse mythology, there's this concept of Ragnarok, the final battle, where forces of chaos, like giants and monsters, finally break free and destroy everything. In Hinduism, you've got the idea of Kali Yuga, the age of destruction and decay, where the world just unravels. It's the same archetype. Humanity builds order, builds walls, tries to hold chaos back, but at the end those walls fall. And when they do, it's overwhelming. Modern chaos are Yajooj and Majooj, so let's bring it to now. Look at the world today. What are the things clawing at the walls of civilization? Pandemics. We just saw what happens when a tiny virus brings the world to its knees. AI. People are building machines that might outthink us, outmaneuver us, and we don't know how to put that genie back in the bottle. Climate change. Floods, fires, droughts, collapsing ecosystems. It's chaos creeping in every direction. Nuclear weapons, a few buttons, and it's all over. Overpopulation and scarcity, too many people, not enough resources. And wars over water and food are on the horizon. That's Yajooj and Majooj, man. Whether it's literal or symbolic, the prophecy hits home. We're watching the wall crack right now. Why this story sticks? Here's the thing. Humans know, deep down we all sense that the world is fragile. That civilization is just a thin sheet of glass over an abyss. And that's why these stories exist. They're not just old myths to scare kids, they're survival codes. They're saying, hey, pay attention, chaos is real, prepare yourself.